What in the world is up, guys? Welcome back to the Butterfly Diary. If you're new here, my name is Maddie. I make content on all things lupus/SLE and other chronic illness related topics. Today I'm going to be coming back with you guys with an update on my Benlysta journey. I remember last time I put out a video, I had just started taking Benlysta as a form of treatment for my lupus and lupus nephritis. And I had been into it for about 3 months. Usually physicians will tell you guys that it takes about 3 to 6 months for patients to start seeing an effect or body response to the medication. So I figured I would wait a little bit longer than what I had expected. It's about a year later now, so I think it's a little bit more than enough time to update you guys on how I'm doing since being on Benlysta. And so that is what I'm going to be doing today. If you guys stick to the end of the video, I'll also be inserting some clips on last year's attendance to the Walk to End Lupus Now marathon that we had in Miami last year. And so stick around for that, and let's go ahead and get right into the video. Alright, so just a quick disclaimer before getting into the positives of being on Benlysta. I will say a lot of the progress that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is not necessarily labs based or numbers focused. I know that very early on in my lupus journey, I used my labs a lot, track of like the progress I was making in terms of my treatment and my health and things like that. I don't know necessarily that I would be able to say that since being on Benlysta, I've seen a dramatic change in numbers, especially early on. The numbers were a lot more drastic and the changes were a lot more dramatic from one lab session to the next. So it was very useful in that way, but I don't know that I could say specifically for Benlysta that has been the case. A lot of the changes tend to happen on a very internal level in the way that I feel on a day-to-day basis. So the first and probably the biggest improvement that I've seen since being on Benlysta is in terms of cognitive awareness and function. So that includes things like your brain fog, memory, speech, being just aware of your surroundings. Go back to my earliest videos, it's probably noticeable just the difference in my speech because I did tend to just lag and just lose my train of thought. I know that a lot of that just simply had to do with the fact that I was just starting out on YouTube, being able to be comfortable being around the camera. But I would say that a lot of that definitely had to do with just my brain fog, and Benlysta has definitely helped with that. I know that when I first got prescribed this treatment, my doctor did point out the fact that a lot of their lupus patients tend to report improvement in cognitive awareness, their brain fog in general. So I can testify to that and say that I have personally experienced that, and hopefully if you guys are looking into this treatment, then you'll also be able to benefit in that way. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about was my energy levels, because that is probably another one of the biggest changes that I've seen since being on Benlysta. I don't know if you guys want to go back and search, I'll go ahead and link. At some point I made a video slightly talked about spoon theory, or slightly talked about spoon theory and how it helps to manage our energy levels for lupus specifically, but I know that spoon theory can apply to anybody with a chronic illness or mental illness, even for people who are very limited in that area. Benlysta has definitely helped in that area in increasing my levels. Obviously, I still have days where I'm fatigued. Let's say if I'm on my period, or if I have a busier schedule than usual, then of course that will change. I might be able to get through more tasks than I could before having to take a break, or before just completely not being able to do anything for the rest of the day. Also, it's not just referring to a physical energy, just like how much I could get done throughout the day, but even mentally and socially as well. It tends to be draining for me to go out in public and have to socialize and things like that, and especially back then it was just on a completely different level. Like, I really could not socialize at all without it physically draining me. And I feel like in that sense I've also been able to now go out a little bit more and socialize without having to feel drained mentally or physically, or whatever the case may be. So that would be the second thing. The third thing that I would say has improved since being on Benlysta are my pain levels. And again, going back to my discussion on the energy levels and how that can definitely change on a day-to-day, schedule-to-schedule basis. Same thing goes for pain levels. Let's say you've had a day where you're working a 10-hour shift compared to someone who doesn't work at all, or someone who doesn't necessarily have as much physical strain throughout the day, then it might change a little bit, but my schedule tends to be very steady for the most part. So I would say that if I have a change in my pain levels, it's usually because of a drastic change in my schedule. So for the most part, I have seen an increase in my pain levels, and that even back then was almost unimaginable because I was, for the most part, bedridden, and even then my pain was close to intolerable. And when I did start gaining strength in my muscle and joints, I was still not seeing as much improvement as I wanted in terms of my pain. A lot of the times I wouldn't even be able to open containers or cook or clean without my wrists hurting and things like that. So I've definitely seen an improvement in that. Of course, physicians will tell you that physical therapy helps with that, but I'm just gonna be honest, I have not really had much physical therapy, so I do want to attribute part of my improvement to being on this treatment. So with that being said, those are the 3 improving factors since being on Benlysta now for a year. If you guys want me to do another video, and maybe in a couple months or a year, then I can go ahead and do another update for Benlysta or anything like that. And so yeah, since I did talk a little bit about the positives, just some negatives. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about the injections so far, other than the fact that it does take a while to get used to injecting. I'm finally able to inject myself. When I first started taking the medication, I was scared to death to inject myself. On top of that, I didn't really have the strength to push down on the injection site, so that definitely takes some getting used to. I don't know that I could say that necessarily is ever a pleasant experience, but it does get a lot more bearable with the amount of practice that you put into it. In terms of like swelling and things like that, I haven't had any swelling, but I do tend to have pain in my shoulder, neck, head area. And as much as I was hoping that would be an improvement after the injections, that hasn't really improved since the beginning of this since the beginning of like my trial, or whatever you want to call it. So those are just a few negatives, I guess. I haven't seen improvement on the areas that I would have most wanted to see, but definitely has helped a lot in a bunch of different areas. So I hope that has been encouraging for you guys. If you guys have any experience taking Benlysta or any sort of lupus related medication, and you guys want to share in the comments, side effects or any symptoms or any improvements even that you guys have experienced since being on Benlysta, that will be truly appreciated and helpful. That way, as a community, we can kind of continue to help each other and just stay aware of new updates. I'll go ahead and leave you guys with some videos on Walk to End Lupus Now of 2022, and hopefully it'll get you guys a little bit hyped up for the marathon in your city for this year as well. So I'll leave you guys with that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! For the vlog! If I don't make it, you guys can carry me.
Okay, we'll carry you on our shoulders.